this week, we're going to just talk about a sentiment that we see within the community. And I kind of understand it because in some ways there's a little bit of truth to it. And I think that's what makes it so difficult. And that is, does YouTube hate your channel and your videos?
Yes.
You're not completely
podcast is
untrue.
over. Yes.
Yeah, podcast over. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you in the next episode. Just kidding. No. So it's interesting because I feel like with subjects like this and myths like this, because we've done a myth busting episode, we should probably do another one at some point.
Ooh.
There's always a tinge of truth that makes it difficult to just dismiss it outright.
Like there's a little bit of truth, but then a lot of people run with it. And now we don't know if it's true or we just want to blame someone.
It's easy to blame something that's something else or someone else. It is hard to blame yourself at times. I did all the research. My thumbnail's the best. And how many times have you seen, and I know you've seen this a bunch of times because we see it in our emails, my thumbnails are great, my title is great, my video content is great. Why isn't YouTube showing it to more people? Sometimes that's the case. But a lot of times when we see that, we would go to those channels and I'm like, you haven't done anything that we've been telling you should do to grow your channel, and you're confused.
It's tough because it's really, one, it's hard to see a lot of the times if you're applying the things properly. Like we give out so much advice, we give out so much information, and it's like you think you're doing it right. And it's really hard to see that you're possibly, maybe probably not.
Listen, it happens to all of us. And I'm
not saying I'm excluded. It's the hardest thing to look in on your channel. That's why I look at other people's channels.
I'm glad you said this because this is exactly what I was going to say next. It's totally true. So Jen and I have been coaching thousands upon thousands of creators, and I have no problem looking at a random YouTube channel and giving them the best advice possible to help grow their channel.
So true.
And it works so often. But for myself, let me tell you. So I went into the coaching just to be able to explain that, like, sometimes people from the outside can see what's going on a lot easier than the people from the inside, even if you are a quote expert in this field. And all that to say that YouTube doesn't have the time or space or ability to quote hate your channel. What it does is it follows the audience. If the audience hates your channel, if the audience is indifferent to your channel, which is probably worse, I would argue audience indifference is worse than audience hate when it comes to the performance of a video.
It's true. You want to because I'm gonna click either way. I'm gonna hate watch it or I'm gonna like watch it.
When you're on, I'm Jen, you've probably experienced this as a creator yourself. When you're on fire, you feel like you can literally put out anything and everything works. Like, this isn't even hard. Like this,
yes.
I figured the YouTube thing out, and then out of nowhere you'll put something out. It's a 9 of 10 or a 10 of 10, and then you're like, you forget anything. I don't know how YouTube works anymore. It hates me.
I think that what might be uncommon knowledge is that a lot of the creators we work with that are large creators don't know why they've had the success they've had. A lot of it, I don't want to say falls into their lap because they're consciously making choices that align in a way that work out really well. So they're obviously choosing the video ideas, the titles, the thumbnails, but they are somehow aligned in a sense naturally that is checking these boxes of strategy. And then, like you said, Travis, they stop doing it. They put out a video that's, I don't even know what a good example is. Baking cake.
Don't hate on my cake baking videos.
And then it doesn't do well, and then they kind of lose their flow. They lose everything that they've been kind of doing nonchalantly, and they start to overthink things, and they start to make decisions that are trying to get those views back. And then they come in, they're like, yeah, I don't know why I have so many videos with millions of hits, and then these have just thousands. And then we look at it, we're like, oh, that's easy.
Yeah, it's really easy.
That's a no-brainer. Why are you over here making cake videos?
Hello. You should be making them candy corn videos. It's really obvious to us because when you are separated from the feelings and the emotions of the video that you made, all that time you put in, and you're just looking at it rationally and kind of objectively, sometimes those things stand out very strongly. When you're in it, when you're in the thick of it, you're fighting this quote algorithm. You're fighting for your creative vision. And when it doesn't hit, it feels like an attack on you personally at times. And that's why people will immediately say something about YouTube hates me or I'm shadow banned or whatever the case may be. They'll say all these things, these words to take the feeling of maybe not failure, but something very close to that and offset it and go, it's not me, it's them.
Yes.
Sometimes, but I would say it's kind of rare, you're correct. It is quote them, whatever that means. But most of the time, Most of the time it's us.
This is my favorite one that I send to creators.
So the very top left says the video flops. So the next thing to think of is, was it an idea issue? If the answer is yes, then audience is the explanation, right? But let's say your idea is not the problem. You click no. And the next one is it a packaging issue, which means like title and thumbnail? If the answer is yes, then of course it's the audience explanation. If it's not the packaging issue, is it a retention issue? If the answer is yes, then it's the audience explanation, right?
Wait, this is so much funnier reading it out loud.
But if it's not a retention issue, maybe it's an external issue. And if that's the case, then yes, it's an audience explanation. But if it's no, you gotta dig deeper.
Dig deeper.
9 times out of 10, there's an audience explanation. That's a great screen. I forgot all about that.
If you end up at dig deeper, you have my permission to blame YouTube.
Sure.
You can't just say those are good. They have to actually be good.
Right. They have to, yeah.
Of course you think it was good. You made it. And you published it. And you decided on it. And you worked really hard on it. Me, I'm looking down this and I'm like, no. I gotta dig deeper because it's not anything. Dig deeper. I'm emailing YouTube.
And we also got to remember that we're talking to a lot of people who are, and some of the emails we've gotten are people who haven't even started their channel yet. So they're looking at this going, okay, well, what does that mean? And I remember before I started YouTube, my conceptions of what these things meant, I definitely remember a specific thought when I would listen to a YouTuber talk about that they're not getting many views and stuff. And I kept thinking, well, you have like 10,000 subscribers or 50,000 subscribers, whatever, like you get a lot of views from that, but you don't. That's not a guarantee of anything. Once you get into it, you're like, oh, that doesn't mean anything.
And then we come back to this audience thing. So let's go into more detail. So you're using this graph or whatever, this chart, and then it goes back to the audience. What do we do then? What does that mean?
So you need to understand the audience that's coming to your channel, which isn't always the one that you think is coming to your channel. That takes a diving of the metrics, if you understand how to do that. And I feel like whenever I'm coaching a YouTuber, no matter what the size, by the way, as a matter of fact, I have one coming up with like a 7 million subscriber channel in like a week or so. They, lean on me for understanding their audience and how it swings from time to time. So again, sometimes even if you are, quote, successful, doesn't mean you always have it locked down. You need a fresh pair of eyes all the time. But if you don't have that opportunity, you can't do that for whatever reason, then you need to become an expert. In the same way, you need to become an expert at making a thumbnail, a title, a video editor, a producer, director, talent, voiceover. Like, you still need to be an expert in those things. But this is another thing you got to put on top of it, which is understanding your analytics and who your audience is. Now, some of that could be your comment section. You can get kind of an idea of what type of people are watching just by listening and reading your comments. But the other part has to do with like geography of where people you're getting views from, the age groups, and then also what other videos they're watching. And that will help kind of make that, quote, avatar of a viewer, which I'm just now realizing that vidIQ should make a plugin to do that for you.
Ooh, love that.
The thing is when you have someone like Jen or I who do this for a living and we can read that stuff and tell you exactly who's watching your videos, that's easy for us because we do it every day. But for someone who's listening to this podcast and goes, especially some of the newer people, they're like, well, I don't even understand how to put all those things together. The analytics are there for people who need a little bit of extra insight, and it's not a bad thing. But it also doesn't guarantee that you will find success just by following the analytics. But it is a tool in the tool set that you need to understand, like who is engaging with your stuff. So that's who your audience is. So that kind of goes back to that chart you were talking about. So if you made this video and you think the packaging was good, but you look at your analytics and you go, I did kind of a boomer thumbnail, but my audience is like 18. Like, maybe that had something to do with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a great way to just check. Like, just see, like, you have the information. I would advise people to not let it, like, dictate your life. Been there, guilty.
Yeah. Analysis paralysis, yeah.
Yeah, like you think the answer is always in there. Like,
sometimes,
it's gotta be.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not, though. That's true.
Yeah, exactly. Looking at every analytic for every video is not necessary.
Yeah, no, it's not. It depends on what you're doing. If you're doing a new series, it's good to do that to understand if the series is working. But if you're just doing normal content and it's not part of a specific new series or anything, you don't really have to do that. It's good to know like the click-through rate and if you got the kind of the hook and everything right. And your retention's always good to look at because storytelling is so important. And I love retention graphs, so I'll sit there all day helping someone with their retention graph. By the same token, you're a creator, and at some point you have to have a gut feeling if you know something's going to work or not. And 9 times, well, maybe not 9 times, but at least 8 times out of 10, when you're about to make a video, you generally speaking know if it's going to do well. Like, this one always does well. Like, you kind of know, right? Every once in a while you go, this one's going to do well, and it does, and you're like, wait a minute, what happened? Still kind of You know, that's the edge case. Doesn't happen all the time. Usually a couple times a year, it'll be like, this is a banger, works every time, and it didn't work. And it's like, I don't understand what happened. I just fell off. No, you didn't fall off. It's YouTube. Sometimes YouTube be YouTubing.
At the end of the day, we only have so much control, and then YouTube comes and they're like, gotcha.
Again, the sentiment of like YouTube quote hating slash shadow banning. And what I'm talking about for shadow banning is this kind of boogie monster thing you read on the internet that like YouTube just won't show your stuff because it hates your channel. Let me just explain why that makes zero rational sense. YouTube is a business. Every time you upload something to it, it's costing YouTube money to house that video. It makes sense for YouTube that if they're going to A, host your video, which costs them money, to B, show that video to make that money back from advertisers. Like, that's just plain straight business. It makes zero sense for them to store a bunch of videos and never show it to anyone purposefully just to spite you, because it actually costs them money. It would make more sense, and they can do this, to just not let you upload a video in the first place, which they can do. They can ban you. If you're like, quote, shadow banned, I don't think you're really shadow banned. But shadow banning implies that YouTube's suppressing your stuff on purpose so that no one ever sees it. But that's ridiculous. They would just not let you upload it in the first place. There's no logical sense behind that. There's no reason YouTube would do that. They would just not allow you to upload in the first place. So get that out of your mind as a small creator. Are there weird instances where strange things have happened? Yes, absolutely. I will acknowledge that. But you as a small creator are not being shadow banned. That's the I hate YouTube hates me thing. And I will not hear anything else about that.